Harold Thompson's life has been one of service, sacrifice, and dedication. Now, at 93 years old, he finds peace in the simple things, the steady rhythm of his daily routine, the quiet of his suburban neighborhood, and the memories of the friends he lost during World War II. His days are grounded in tradition, in honoring the past while embracing the quiet joys of the present. But beneath the surface of this calm exterior lies a man who has weathered storms far greater than most could imagine. He has faced unimaginable challenges, both on the battlefield and in life, and emerged with a strength that has carried him through the decades. In the soft light of early morning, Harold Thompson, a 93-year-old World War II veteran, begins his day as he has for decades. Living in a small suburban neighborhood, Harold carries with him a quiet discipline forged in the toughest years of his youth. Though age has slowed his steps, each movement remains steady and purposeful. Every morning, he follows a familiar routine, one rooted in respect and remembrance. At precisely 7 a.m., Harold raises the American flag in his front yard. He performs this act as a solemn tribute to the friends he lost in the Pacific, men who fought beside him and whose memory he honors with this daily ritual. The neighbors have come to know Harold's quiet strength and unwavering habits. They often watch with quiet admiration as he stands before the flag, his worn hands working with steady care. After the flag raising, Harold turns his attention to his rose garden, tending to each bush with the same dedication. These roses, a mix of red and pink blooms, hold a special place in his heart. They give him a sense of purpose, a way to nurture life in the peaceful years after the war, a comforting rhythm that fills his days. The neighborhood respects and appreciates Harold, who has become a kind of honorary grandfather to many of the families. Among them is Jenny, a 12-year-old girl from next door, who often stops on her way to school to greet him. "Good morning, Mr. Thompson," she calls out cheerfully, waving as she pedals by. Not long after sunrise one morning, a harsh rumble breaks the usual calm of Harold's neighborhood. The once abandoned warehouse down the street, a silent structure for years, suddenly springs to life with the arrival of the Red Serpents, a notorious motorcycle gang. The residents notice right away the Red Serpents don't slip into town quietly. Their arrival is marked by the roar of engines, loud laughter, and a brash, unsettling energy that spreads through the neighborhood. As days go by, the gang's presence brings with it a new kind of disruption. Where there used to be quiet streets and friendly exchanges, now there's a steady pulse of noise. Late-night parties that echo long after dark, music that blasts at all hours, and strangers coming and going in clusters. This isn't the kind of activity that Harold and his neighbors are used to, and the community begins to feel the effects of this unwanted change. The once well-kept warehouse soon becomes an eyesore, littered with trash and graffiti, a glaring reminder of the gang's careless attitude toward the place they've taken over. The Red Serpents bring a feeling of intimidation that lingers in the air. Many neighbors start avoiding the street altogether, drawing their curtains closed when they hear the roar of motorcycles approaching. The quiet, safe neighborhood Harold has called home for decades begins to feel foreign, its peace overshadowed by a new sense of unease. For Harold, a man who values respect and order, the gang's behavior is not only disruptive, but also deeply unsettling, challenging the very stability he has cherished all these years. Harold Thompson remains undeterred. Each morning, even as the Red Serpents occupy the warehouse just down the road, he steps outside with the same purpose and resolve. He carries the American flag to the pole in his yard, lifting it with steady hands in memory of those he lost in the war. It's a ritual that holds personal meaning, a tribute to his fallen friends, and no amount of noise or disrespect will make him abandon it. However, the Red Serpents notice Harold's unwavering stance and, with mocking jeers, begin targeting him directly. They see his tradition as something to disrupt, something to use in testing his limits. Their attempts to intimidate him grow bolder. One morning, Harold steps outside to find tire marks scarring his neatly kept lawn, the grass he has carefully tended torn up by reckless circles and skids. His rose bushes, which he's nurtured with the same care he once gave to his family, are trampled and broken, their blooms crushed into the dirt. It's clear the gang is sending a message, trying to show him that his dedication and sense of honor don't mean anything to them. But Harold doesn't yield. The next day, as he returns to the flagpole, his heart sinks at the sight that awaits him. His beloved American flag, the symbol of his loyalty and sacrifices, lies crumpled and muddied on the ground. The red serpents have torn it down, leaving it as a final insult, a show of disrespect that cuts deeply. Yet even then, Harold doesn't let them break his spirit. He raises the flag again, his gaze firm and resolute, a silent stand against those who would try to steal the dignity he's built his life around. He knows all too well what it's like to face threats and intimidation, and in his heart, he knows he won't let this be the end of his quiet strength. As the days wear on, Harold's frustration grows. He's reached out to the police multiple times, hoping they might restore some order, but each call seems to end the same way. There's not much they can do, they tell him, unless the gang crosses a specific legal line. Their hands are tied, and Harold's calls seem to drift into a void, unanswered. Each morning, he steps outside to face more vandalism, more signs of the gang's attempt to chase him into silence. But in Harold's eyes, there's more at stake here than his lawn, his garden, or even his flag. He's spent his life fighting for the principles he believes in, for his country, and for the people around him. And now, with his neighborhood under threat, he feels the same resolve he had all those years ago, the sense that it's time to stand up once more. One evening, as he sits quietly in his living room, Harold remembers something he'd almost forgotten. Tucked deep within an old drawer, hidden away among memories from his service, lies his military ID card. It's worn and faded, but to Harold, it's a connection to a brotherhood that never died. With a steady hand, he retrieves the card and dials a number printed faintly on its back. It's the Veterans Motorcycle Alliance, a group that, like him, holds loyalty and honor close to their hearts. Harold doesn't hesitate as he asks for their support, reaching out to fellow veterans who know the value of courage and unity. As he hangs up the phone, a quiet determination settles over him. He may be fighting a different kind of battle, but he's no longer standing alone. The quiet of Harold's street breaks one morning with a new kind of rumble. A sound so unmistakable, yet profoundly different from the chaos the red serpents had brought. At first it's faint, barely rising above the hum of the early morning, but soon, the deep roar of engines fills the air. The ground vibrates as a line of motorcycles rolls into the neighborhood, their riders moving in a way that feels purposeful, almost calculated. Unlike the red serpents, whose presence had been marked by loud, disruptive noise, this sound is different. It is steady, almost rhythmic, a contrast to the unpredictable ruckus that had previously threatened the peace. The riders approach slowly, their faces set with quiet resolve, as if they've been on this path before and know exactly what needs to be done. These aren't the rebellious, noise-driven bikers who've terrorized Harold's neighborhood. No, these riders carry with them something different, a strength and presence that emanates from their very being. They are men and women who, like Harold, understand the weight of service, the significance of sacrifice, and the bond that is forged in the heat of battle. These riders, each one with their own history, come from different wars, different generations, but they share something more than just their motorcycles. They share a bond forged in loyalty and courage. They are the Veterans Motorcycle Alliance, an organization dedicated to supporting fellow veterans and promoting the values they hold dear. As they roll into Harold's neighborhood, it becomes immediately clear that their arrival is no accident. They are here for a purpose. They've come in response to a call for help, a call made by Harold, whose years of quiet service and steadfast routine have been interrupted by the very people he once fought to protect his community from. The Alliance members are not here to create chaos, but to restore order. They are not here to intimidate, but to restore the peace that was once the foundation of this neighborhood. At the front of this powerful group rides a woman who stands out even among the sea of veterans. She's tall, with silver-streaked hair that shines like polished steel in the morning sun. Her face, weathered by years of service, carries the unmistakable mark of someone who has seen the worst of the world and emerged unshaken. Her name is Iron Lady, and she is the leader of the Veterans Motorcycle Alliance. Her presence commands attention without a word, radiating an aura of command that others instinctively follow. There's a quiet strength about her, a resolve that speaks to the depth of her experience and her unyielding belief in the values she stands for. She's seen it all, both on the battlefield and off, and it shows in the way she carries herself, unshaken by the intimidation that others might cower from. Iron Lady gathers her riders, and they form an unbroken line of strength and purpose in front of the warehouse now occupied by the Red Serpents. The air around them feels heavier now, filled with the silent understanding that these veterans are not here to back down. The gang, who had spent days taunting the residents of Harold's neighborhood, had always prided themselves on their ability to intimidate. But in the face of this new presence, their bravado falters. The Red Serpents, so accustomed to running roughshod over anyone who stood in their way, now find themselves in the presence of people who do not fear them. These veterans, unbroken, resolute, and strong, are a collective force that won't be swayed by noise, threats, or bravado. Without raising her voice, Iron Lady steps forward, her boots firm on the pavement, each step a deliberate command. She addresses the gang with the quiet authority that comes from years of leadership and service. Her words are not loud, nor are they threatening, but they are firm, clear, and without question. You will respect this neighborhood. You will respect Harold, the men and women who served, and the values we hold dear, she says, her voice unwavering. There is no room for negotiation in her tone, and it's clear from the very first syllable that this is not a suggestion. The Red Serpents, who had once dominated this street with fear and intimidation, find themselves disoriented, unsure of how to respond. They shift uncomfortably, sensing the power of the veterans standing before them. They are no longer in control. The neighborhood from their windows and doorways watches in silence as the power dynamics shift. For the first time in days, there's a sense of hope among the residents. The sight of these veterans, their resolve unwavering, brings a sense of security and strength to those who have watched helplessly as the Red Serpents wreaked havoc. It's a new kind of force, one that operates not out of fear, but out of a deep sense of honor and duty. These veterans have been through battles far greater than any that this gang could ever imagine, and they carry with them the quiet confidence that only those who have fought for something greater than themselves can have. The gang, sensing this, begins to waver. Iron Lady and her riders stand firm, their posture unbroken as the gang members realize they're no longer dealing with a neighborhood they can bully. They're facing veterans, people who have fought for their country, who have seen the worst of what humanity can do and survived. Each veteran stands as a living testament to resilience, strength, and honor, and together they make it clear that they will not tolerate the gang's behavior any longer. The neighborhood's peace, long disrupted by the Red Serpents, is being restored not with violence or threats, but with the quiet, unshakable presence of men and women who understand what it means to defend what is right. The gang, for the first time, realizes they are not in control of the situation. They are no longer the ones who command fear in the streets. The Veterans Motorcycle Alliance has come, and with them, they've brought a presence that the Red Serpents simply cannot challenge. The community watches, feeling a surge of hope. The once silent street, once filled with tension and fear, now begins to feel safe again. The veterans, led by Iron Lady, have become the living embodiment of everything Harold and his neighbors have fought for: unity, respect, and the courage to stand up for what's right. And though the gang hasn't yet left, the neighborhood knows that the power has shifted. The red serpents, who once ruled with fear, are now confronted with a force far stronger: the unwavering strength of those who understand true honor and loyalty. The neighborhood, once divided, finds itself united in the face of this new challenge. As the red serpents begin to retreat, their authority deflated by the presence of the veterans, the community begins to breathe a little easier. The foundation of strength, loyalty, and courage that the veterans bring with them isn't just restoring peace. It's reminding everyone that no matter how dark the times may seem, there is always hope, and there is always strength to be found in standing together. Harold, who has watched this all unfold from his front porch, knows that the fight for his neighborhood isn't over yet. But with the veterans by his side, he feels certain that the peace they once had will return, stronger than ever before. Under the firm gaze of Iron Lady and her team, the red serpents find their defiance quickly melting away. They may be used to intimidating a quiet neighborhood, but this gathering of veterans is something else entirely. One by one, the gang members realize they're up against people who've endured far more challenging situations. The authority and discipline of the veterans command an unspoken respect that even the red serpents can't ignore. Reluctantly, the gang begins to comply with Iron Lady's demand. They start cleaning up their mess, picking up trash, scrubbing off graffiti, and repairing the damage they inflicted on Harold's lawn and his beloved garden. Neighbors watch with a sense of relief and satisfaction as the gang members work, their intimidating masks slipping away as they come face to face with real strength and resilience. The veterans stand guard, ensuring that each act of restoration is carried out without complaint or shortcuts. For the red serpents, it's an unfamiliar position, to be held accountable in such a public and humiliating way. By the time the cleanup is done, they're ready to leave, their bold attitudes deflated by the presence of Harold's allies. As the red serpents prepare to retreat, flashing blue lights fill the street. Police cars pull up, and officers step out, taking quick control of the situation. Among the officers is Officer Rodriguez, who's been monitoring the situation since the veterans arrived. He approaches the gang's leader, Snake, and reads him his rights. It turns out that Snake has several outstanding warrants, charges that have finally caught up with him. The gang members look on in shock as their leader, the man who once ruled them with intimidation, is led away in handcuffs. The red serpents, left without their figurehead, slink away from the neighborhood, finally freeing the streets of their disruptive influence. With Snake's arrest and the gang's departure, the neighborhood begins to breathe again. The veterans' presence has restored a sense of order and safety, and for the first time in days, Harold and his neighbors feel that their community has returned to them. With the red serpents gone and peace restored, the warehouse they once occupied takes on new meaning. As it turns out, the building's owner, a Marine veteran, has followed the events closely. Inspired by the show of solidarity and the strength of the Veterans Motorcycle Alliance, he makes a generous decision. Rather than leaving the warehouse vacant, he donates it to the Alliance, with the hope that it can become a lasting place of support and unity in the neighborhood. The veterans eagerly take on the task, transforming the warehouse into a community center that serves not just the veterans, but the entire neighborhood. Within weeks, the building undergoes a remarkable change. The graffiti is removed, the walls are painted, and the inside is organized into welcoming spaces. They create rooms for meetings, set up a small museum honoring local veterans, and arrange a comfortable gathering area where veterans can come together to share stories and find companionship. The community center quickly becomes a hub of activity. Classes are organized for veterans and neighbors alike, everything from motorcycle maintenance workshops to history lectures and computer classes. Younger veterans teach children and teens about discipline and respect, showing them the value of hard work and community service. The museum, filled with memorabilia from different wars, serves as a reminder of the sacrifices made by those who came before, giving the neighborhood a tangible connection to its history. For Harold and his neighbors, the community center is more than just a building. It's a symbol of resilience, respect, and the power of standing together. Where once there was fear and disruption, there is now unity and strength. A place that honors the past and builds a brighter future for everyone in the neighborhood. With the Veterans Community Center firmly established, Harold's neighborhood begins to thrive in a way it never has before. Every morning, Harold steps outside, not alone this time, but surrounded by veterans and neighbors who join him for the daily flag-raising ceremony. It's no longer a solitary tribute, but a community tradition, one that fills the morning air with a quiet sense of pride and remembrance. Veterans of all ages, dressed in jackets bearing patches from different branches and eras of service, stand side by side with children, parents, and older residents. They all watch as the flag rises, honoring those who served and the values they fought to protect. The community center quickly becomes a gathering point, hosting events and programs that bring the neighborhood closer together. Monthly educational talks, led by veterans and community members, share lessons on history, values, and practical skills. Children come after school to learn in workshops, with veterans teaching everything from how to change a tire to understanding the importance of teamwork. On weekends, neighbors come together for family events, movie nights, and cooking classes, with everyone pitching in to make each gathering memorable. The once forgotten warehouse now serves as a place of learning, laughter, and respect, and its doors are always open to anyone who needs a place to feel supported and valued. Harold looks on with pride, seeing how the neighborhood has changed. Where once there was fear and disruption, there's now unity and resilience. The community center stands as a testament to the strength of those who served, but also to the power of a neighborhood coming together to protect what matters most. This rejuvenation is more than just a fresh start. It's a promise that Harold's legacy and the values he's held dear will continue to flourish in the place he calls home. The neighborhood reaches a new milestone with the first annual Veterans Festival, held on a bright, crisp day on Cedar Street. The entire community comes together, excited and filled with a renewed sense of pride. Veterans from near and far arrive on motorcycles and in cars, each one greeted with handshakes, smiles, and heartfelt thanks from neighbors. The street, once marked by fear and intimidation, now buzzes with warmth, unity, and celebration. American flags wave from homes and the community center, adding vibrant colors to the scene as neighbors, young and old, set up tables filled with food, memorabilia, and displays honoring the service of veterans. The day's events include music, speeches, and activities that bring families together. Children listen eagerly to veterans' stories, learning about sacrifice, service, and the values that built their community. There's laughter and music, families sharing meals, and veterans sharing moments of camaraderie that transcend age and experience. The community center is open to everyone, with rooms dedicated to telling the stories of local heroes, each corner filled with tokens of courage and resilience. In the heart of the celebration, a moment comes that touches everyone deeply. Iron Lady steps forward to announce the unveiling of a special dedication, a mural painted on the side of the community center. The crowd goes quiet as the cloth is lifted, revealing an image of Harold in his Navy uniform, young and determined, standing beside his shipmates. Below, a simple inscription reads, "To Harold Thompson, in honor of courage, service, and community." Harold, now an elder but still embodying that same resolve, stands before the mural, a mixture of surprise and emotion on his face. The mural isn't just a tribute to him, it's a symbol of everything he has stood for and the strength he's brought to his neighborhood. As the crowd cheers, Harold feels an overwhelming sense of gratitude, not just for the mural, but for the people standing beside him. Each one a reminder that the bonds of brotherhood, service, and resilience can transform a community, and that his legacy will live on in the hearts of everyone around him. In the months following the Veterans Festival, Harold's life settles into a new, peaceful rhythm. Every morning he continues to raise the flag, now joined by veterans and neighbors who stand beside him with quiet pride. The once troubled streets are filled with life and laughter again, and Harold feels a deep contentment in knowing that his small acts of courage helped restore honor and safety to the place he calls home. The community center, bustling with activity, serves as a daily reminder of the power of brotherhood and unity, values that Harold has carried with him since his days in the Navy. Reflecting on his journey, Harold often thinks about the resilience of his community and the strength that comes from standing together. He knows now, more than ever, that true courage isn't always found on battlefields. Sometimes, it's in the quiet resolve to protect what you love, even in the face of fear. The veterans who rallied to support him, the neighbors who stood by him, and the children who now grow up understanding respect and unity, all of them are part of his legacy. In his quiet moments, Harold hopes his story reminds others of the importance of courage, kindness, and the strength that grows when people support one another. He may be one man, but the difference he made has spread across his neighborhood, building a foundation of trust and respect that will last for years to come. And as he watches the flag wave gently in the morning breeze, Harold knows he's left something truly meaningful behind. A community bound together by the values he fought to uphold, a legacy that will continue long after he's gone.